Okay, all right. Shabbat Shalom. We are live. We're going to be looking at this week Leviticus 26, verse 3 through the end of Leviticus. We'll probably touch on some things in 27.
We're going to be on the end of Leviticus?
Yeah, it's basically 2 chapters left in Leviticus. Talk mostly about Leviticus chapter 26. Mention 27. Then we'll go look at John 15. The whole chapter. Basically the whole chapter 15. When we look, there are some things that seem seemingly kind of connected concepts between what we see in Leviticus chapter 26 and what we see Yeshua teaching in John chapter 15. So we'll talk about that a little bit and go from there. When we look at something that I want to just bring up as we look at Leviticus 26. When you think about blessings and cursings, we always think about Deuteronomy 28. But we see some of that actually we see in Leviticus 26. But the main difference I would say is when we look at Leviticus 26 and compare that to Deuteronomy 28, is there seems to be a comeback from Leviticus 26. There seems to be a way out to what we see in Leviticus 26 as opposed to Deuteronomy 28. We look at the blessings and the cursings. When you look at the blessings and the cursings of Deuteronomy 28, from a prophetic perspective, the curses really seem to be kind of eternal almost. It's kind of to an end, so to speak, as to where when we look at 26, we see that there is a way back. Many of the commentators kind of ascribe Leviticus 26 to perhaps the Babylonian captivity, because there was a captivity where Israel was kind of taken over, destroyed, taken away from their land and everything else. But there was a return. The people weren't destroyed like what we see with Deuteronomy 28, when we see these multiple verses where it speaks of the state of Israel being to the place where no man can save them. Okay.
So do you think that it's two different things?
I would say from a prophetic perspective, 26 is lighter than Deuteronomy 28. It's a lighter thing that's going on as to where, yes, there will be curses that are attached to you when you do this. Well, generally speaking, it's just kind of you reap what you sow. If you do the things that I like, then you'll be blessed. If you don't do, you'll be cursed. But looking at it from a prophetic perspective in terms of what actually happened to Israel, we can look in history and see when Israel was kind of brought extremely low, and where they were, literally, enslaved to this other nation. But at the same time, we know that after the Babylonian captivity, that there was such thing as Israel. But when we look historically after 70 AD, when we see what happens with the people of Yahweh at that point, that looks like what we see, the beginnings of what we see in Deuteronomy 28, where over and over again it refers to the people being in a state really of no return.
Don't one of them have like a pleasant, like kind of an end, but then the other one it's just like it just ends on a bad note.
What do you mean?
We'll read it, but I don't know if it was a Deuteronomy one.
It's definitely not Deuteronomy. I'll tell you that.
Deuteronomy probably is the one that it just ends and there's no
no comeback.
There's no like kind of redemptive type of a thing at the end of it.
No, there's not.
It just ends on a bad note is what I'm trying to say.
Yes, exactly. Let's look at 26. We read we begin this with we begin this with Leviticus 26 verse 3. Last portion. We had the first two verses of this. So we're going to read up to the end of 26, chapter 26. You gonna start that off?
Want me to do?
Yeah, just a few. I don't want Hasky to have to read the whole thing.
Okay.
Just read half. Let them finish it off. Bring it home for us.
just 26, not 27, right?
Yeah. We're just reading.
Right. If ye walk in my statutes and keep my commandments and do them, then I will give your rains in their season, and the land shall yield her produce, and the trees of the fields shall yield their fruit. And your threshing shall reach unto the vintage, and the vintage shall reach unto the sowing time. And ye shall eat your bread until ye have enough, and dwell in your land safely. And I will give peace in the land, and ye shall lie down, and none shall make you afraid. And I will cause evil beasts to cease out of the land, neither shall the sword go through your land. And ye shall chase your enemies, and they shall fall before you by the sword. And 5 of you shall chase 100, and 100 of you shall chase 10,000. And your enemies shall fall before you by the sword. And I will have respect unto you, and make you fruitful, and multiply you, and will establish my covenant with you. And ye shall eat old store long kept, and ye shall bring forth the old from before the new. And I will set my tabernacle among you, and my soul shall not abhor you. And I will walk among you and be your Elohim, and ye shall be my people. I am Yahweh your Elohim, who brought you forth out of the land of Egypt, that ye shall not be their bondmen. And I have broken the bars of your yoke, and made you go upright. But if ye will not hearken unto me, and will not do all these commandments, and if you shall reject my statutes, and if your soul abhor mine ordinances, so that you will not do all my commandments, but break my covenant, I also will do this unto you. I will appoint terror over you, even consumption and fever, that shall make the eyes to fail, and the soul to languish. And you shall sow your seed in vain, for your enemies shall eat it. And I will set my face against you, and ye shall be smitten before your enemies. They that hate you shall rule over you, and you shall flee when none pursueth you. And if you will not yet for all these things hearken unto me, then I will chastise you 7 times more for your sins. And I will break the pride of your power, and I will make your heavens as iron and your earth as brass. And your strength shall be spent in vain, for your land shall not yield her produce, neither shall the trees of your land yield their fruit. And if you walk contrary unto me, and will not hearken unto me, I will bring 7 times more plagues upon you, according to your sins. And I will send the beasts of the field among you, which shall rob you of your children, and destroy your cattle, and make you few in number, and your way shall become desolate. And if in spite of all these things you will not be corrected unto me, but will walk contrary unto me, then will I also walk contrary unto you, and I will smite you, even I 7 times for your sins. And I will bring a sword upon you, that shall execute the vengeance of the covenant, and ye shall be gathered together within your cities. And I will send the pestilence among you, and ye shall be delivered into the hand of the enemy. When I break your staff of bread, 10 women shall bake your bread in one oven, and they shall deliver your bread again by weight, and ye shall eat and not be satisfied. And if you will for not all this hearken unto me, but walk contrary unto me, then I will walk contrary unto you in fury. And I also will chastise you 7 times for your sins. And ye shall eat the flesh of your sons, and the flesh of your daughters shall you eat. And I will destroy your high places, and cut down your sun pillars, and cast your carcasses upon the carcasses of your idols. And my soul shall abhor you. And I will make your cities a waste, and will bring your sanctuaries unto desolation. And I will not smell the savor of your sweet odors. And I will bring the land into desolation, and your enemies that dwell therein shall be astonished at it. And you will I scatter among the nations, and I will draw out the sword after you. And your land shall be a desolation, and your city shall be a waste. Then shall the land be paid her Sabbaths, as long as it lies desolate, and ye are in your enemy's land. Even then shall the land rest. Even then, even the rest, which it had not in your Sabbaths when you dwelt there upon it. And as for them that are left of you, I will send a faintness into their heart in the lands of their enemies, and the sound of a driven leaf shall chase them, and they shall flee as one fleeth from the sword, and they shall fall when none pursue it, and they shall stumble upon one upon another, as it were before the sword, when none pursue it. And ye shall have no power to stand before your enemies, and ye shall perish among the nations, and the land of your enemies shall eat you up. You want to go from there? This is 39.
Yeah. And they that are left of you shall pine away in their iniquity in your enemies' lands. And also in the iniquities of their fathers shall they pine away with them. If they shall confess their iniquity and the iniquity of their fathers with their trespass which they trespassed against me, and that also they have walked contrary unto me. And that I also have walked contrary unto them, and have brought them into the land of their enemies, and then their uncircumcised hearts be humbled, and they then accept of the punishment of their iniquity. Then I will remember my covenant with Jacob, and also my covenant with Isaac, and also my covenant with Abraham will I remember, and I will remember the land. The land also shall be left of them, and shall enjoy her her Sabbaths, while she lieth desolate without them, and they shall accept of the punishment of their iniquity, because even because they despise my judgments, and because their soul abhorred my statutes. And yet for all that, when they be in the land of their enemies, I will not cast them away, neither will I abhor them to destroy them utterly, and break my covenant with them. For I am Yahweh their Elohim. But I will for their sakes remember the covenant of their ancestors, whom I brought forth out of the land of Egypt, in the sight of the heathen, that I might be their Elohim. I am Yahweh. These are the statutes and judgments of the laws which Yahweh made between him and the children of Israel. I in Mount Sinai by the hand of Moses.
Okay. All right. Very good.
You did a good job.
Okay. So, when we look back again, thinking about the those that are familiar with Deuteronomy 28, thinking about what we see there as opposed to what we see here, the ending that we see, totally contrasts to the way that the 28th chapter of Deuteronomy ends, what we see here in Leviticus chapter 26. So I want to go back when we look at starting with the first verse, or the first verse that we read, which is actually verse 3, where it says, if you walk in my statutes. In the Hebrew, it literally says, if in my statutes you walk, or im Bekuqutay halach. The word statutes, well, first of all, the word if is giving you that idea of, it's a conditional thing. If you walk in my statutes, that word actually is im. If
It's not.
it's not key. Key's more about when.
Oh.
Key im is more about if.
That's a good distinction, because I was thinking it would be key, and key is more of a definite.
Key's more about when you do this or that. Im is more about if. So in English, sometimes key is translated as if or when, but it seems from the language, it's more, key is more about when, and im is more about if. But this you reap what you sow.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's kind of a universal thing. So when we see some of the things that Yahweh pulls out here, when he says the first thing, if you walk in my statutes and keep my commandments so as to carry them out, then I will give you rains in their season. Well, we think about the idea of reaping what you sow. If I sow pumpkins, I'm going to get pumpkins back. It's almost as if it's this natural kind of thing that happens. It's in the process of things. If I do this, something's going to happen back to me. Rains in their season seems as if, if it's in season, it's going to happen anyway, it seems. It's in the season.
You talking about that's like the natural order.
It seems as if that's how it should be. So I'm going to allow things to be for you the way that they should be, if you keep my commandments. I'm going to allow for the natural progression of things to exist in your life if you keep my commandments. Because when we think about it, right, when it gets to the curses, you're doing things and the natural progression of the things not happening back to you. Talk about having these 10 women baking you a cake or bread that's connected to the weight of what it was, each woman baking you a cake in an oven and you're eating it, but you're not full, right? You're not receiving the thing that's connected to the natural progression of the situation when you're in the curses, right? But in the blessings, when you are doing that which Yahweh is pleased with, right? He's allowing for, that idea of reaping what you sow. He's allowing that to just, come forth.
It's almost like, if you like how if his key is good and everything like that, it's going to be the natural order that he's going to get blessings and different things.
Good things is going to happen.
But if he disobeys, then he's going to get the belt. So it's kind of like he's messing up his whole default of goodness because he's messing up. I think I was talking to the kids about that.
Right, your default.
I was talking to somebody about that this week. That the default is good. It's goodness because you're a child and a son. But if you mess up, then you're gonna go to the punishment, which isn't the default.
We gotta bring you back to.
Gotta get reset.
So when you think about now where we are, right, as a whole, in terms of the people, right, as a whole. The people is not really in a state of goodness. Right? They're not dealing with being in this default position, right?
Can I say something?
Go ahead.
So when I was on the opposite side of life, and everything was turned upside down.
Yeah.
It looked to the average person as if I was blessed.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because I had everything that, the flesh wants.
You had things.
Right. I had things. Right. So it actually seemed as if, I was getting blessed. And I actually found no pleasure in those things. So even though I had all the things that people wanted, even myself wanted, it's like having the women bake you the 10 cakes and I wasn't filled. So even though I had things, I wasn't filled. Right. Like I had lots of money, but I still felt like I needed so much more money. It was like nothing ever satisfied whatever it was that I was looking for. And I thought, women, whatever would fill these holes in my body, but it never was filled. And you have even like rappers, right? And they're making songs. They got a song called I'm Blessed. Way up, I feel blessed. That's Drake, right? He's talking about he feel blessed, and he talking about all this evil stuff.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? The whole song. And he's blessed.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But really, he's cursed.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's my little story.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, because when you're looking at what these people are dealing with, they're not dealing with things from a holistic standpoint, right? Because we're talking about actually having a relationship with the Creator. So he's telling you all of these physical things, blessings and curses that's going to be attached, but at the same time, it's based on a spiritual relationship.
Mm-hmm.
So when we're thinking about the blessing aspect, we starting off with the fact that we have a right relationship with the Creator. So that spiritual aspect is already solidified, and then it spills over into the physical. As to where, if we talking about, the example that you bringing up is, you having physical things is not connected at all necessarily to your spiritual health necessarily. When we're looking at here, it's based on that. If y'all always saying, if our relationship is good, then now not only is that going to be good, but you're going to have all of these physical blessings as well.
Mm-hmm.
But when we dealing with people in the world where, the God of this world, seeks out to bless the people with physical things, mm-hmm. and there's no thought of, that the real you. Mm-hmm. The spiritual side of things. Mm-hmm. So it's a big trap. Okay, so if we look down,
so the im is saying basically that the im here,
the if, right? The if you do this, then this will happen. If conditional. But again, I started off by saying, comparing the blessings and the cursings that we see here to the thing that we typically think about when we think about blessings, cursings, we think about Deuteronomy 28. And when it gets to that cursing part, there's no kind of reprise, there's no comeback from, what we see in Deuteronomy 28. But here we kind of end on a good note. And I was saying also in the beginning that a lot of times there's many commentators that would connect Leviticus 26 with the Babylonian captivity, because of the fact that yes, the people were taken away into captivity and overtaken and so on and so forth, and the land defiled and everything else. But there was a comeback. They came back in the end. They were able to come back and be rejoined with the Most High. And you can see that historically. But since 70 AD, where the people are, come back, right?
Yeah.
So
as Deuteronomy says, there wouldn't be no comeback, right?
No, none is able to. No man will save you. It says at least 3, 4, or 5 times over and over. It's a total destruction. We see the complete opposite here, where where Yahweh clearly says that he will remember his people. He will not utterly destroy the people. It's a definite kind of difference in the language. So in that regards, it's easy from a prophetic perspective to be able to attach one to the Babylonian captivity, because it was a thing that Israel actually came back from. But I want to look at some of the specifics when we look here, some of the things. When we look down at verse 9, where it says, "So I will turn toward you and make you fruitful and multiply you, and I will confirm my covenant with you." He says, "So I will turn towards you." A lot of times we see this idea of the Most High turning his face towards you or away from you. When he's looking at you, when he's dealing with you, when he turns his face towards you, it's always kind of on the positive side. When he turns his face away from you, when he's not looking at you, when he's not dealing with you, when he could care less as to what you're doing, right? Then he turns his face away from you, right? So he's dealing with the people. He says, "I will turn towards you." And that literally means to turn, panah, to turn, to face, to appear, to look, to cast on. So we're talking about Yahweh actually dealing with his people. And then, so when we think about Yahweh in the father role in terms of being the heavenly father, right? When he's looking at us, when we're right or wrong, right? He's dealing with us, right? He's going to look at us and see, oh, he cutting up, or give you a little smack on the butt, right? And get you squared away. Right, but if he ain't looking at you, then he don't really care. So right or wrong, you doing wrong,
You ain't gonna know.
you ain't gonna know, because he's not dealing with you.
Yeah.
Right, you're not getting chastised. You're not getting no punishments or anything, because he's not turned towards you.
No correction.
No discipline.
Yeah.
Yeah, my version of this it says, "For I will have respect unto you." So it kind of correlates with what you're saying, because you're acknowledging that person at least.
Right.
That they're doing something that you can acknowledge and have respect for.
Right. Where you paying attention, where it matters, where if you're doing something and I'm just letting you do it, I'm not paying any attention to you, I'm just letting you go ahead on in your iniquity, if that's what it is, there's no correction, right? I don't really care, right? He always says that he chastises a son, right? When he's dealing with you in terms of him having a relationship with you and actually manifesting love towards you, he's not going to let you just go on in wickedness. Even here, like, this is what this is about. This is his people. You're not going to do what I have prescribed for you to do. So it's going to be consequences and repercussions, right? He's not doing this to the other nations, right? They can just do. They're sitting up. They're doing these things that he's eating their babies and all of this craziness. You know what I mean? Offering them up unto Molech, and he's not dealing with those people, right? Because his face is not turned towards them, right?
I think about him turning his face from you. There's some shame associated with that.
Right. Well, we're going to talk about turning away more. But here is dealing with the idea of turning the face towards.
I'm sorry.
Verse 9. Yeah.
I didn't know he was only in verse 9.
And when we look at some of these blessings and cursings, it really ends up being kind of just a reverse. The curses are really just a reverse of the blessing. Because here again, verse 9, it's talking about I will turn towards you. Down verse 11, he says, moreover, I will make my dwelling among you, and my soul will not reject you.
My soul.
Yahweh said, my soul will not reject you. We don't typically see the idea of nefesh connected with Elohim in many places. But we see that here when we think about the idea of nefesh was translated as soul, breathing, the vitality, oneself, that inner desires. So the inner desires of the Most High will be actually towards you. It says he will not reject. That word reject actually means detest, or sometimes it's translated as abhor.
Yeah, abhor. Yeah.
King James says abhor. Detest, reject, abhor, vilely cast away. Right? So the Most High is saying that his inner desire will be not to abhor you.
That's the deal.
Right. When you're on the right side, he said that his desire won't be to abhor you.
It'll be to give you grace, right?
Mhm.
When you mess up, it'll be to forgive
And correct.
to correct.
We look down in verse 12. I will also walk among you. He just already done said he was going to dwell with the people. He said, I will walk among you, be your Elohim, and you shall be my people. So again, we're talking about being in right relationship with Elohim. We talk about the idea of Yahweh being your Elohim, right? Where it's more than, again, like we referring back to the kind of worldly ideas. It's more than just the stuff. It's about having that relationship with the Creator, right? He said, I will walk among you and be your Elohim. I will have a right relationship with you and be your mighty one. I will be your strength.
I mean, that's what we was created for, right? For a relationship.
Yes, exactly.
And that's why, in life, men and women seek out relationships.
Right. Because we just mimicking really,
That's supposed to have, right?
Right. When we think about the relationship between a man and a woman, and Paul brings us out and referring back to the idea of the people of Yahweh and Yeshua as a husband and wife kind of a situation. So we can figure out how Yeshua deals with his people. Yeshua being the picture of a husband and the people being the picture of the wife. Mm-hmm. If we can figure that out, we get a lot figured out in terms of how we're supposed to relate to each other and how we're supposed to relate to Yeshua, how we're supposed to deal with our master, right? It's a lot to be figured out, but in all that, it's the same thing as what you're saying. It's about that relationship. It's about understanding how we are to relate to one another. And this is what he's dealing with when we are walking in obedience.
Yeah. And I think Yeshua even mentions how, like they will know that, that we're his disciples by the way we treat one another.
Right. Because when we think about it, again, we're always able to see the new covenant throughout the scripture. So when we think about what the new covenant is, being the character of Yahweh inside of us, again, that's manifesting the character of Yahweh. That's how people know. We walk around manifesting the character of Yahweh to people, then you're able to see, he's different, right? He's not like all of these other people. Like, he walks in a way that's not like unto the world, right?
It's just funny how people they'll just even change up like how they talk to you different than how they'll talk to someone else, because they could kind of see that you're not like one of them.
Yeah, some people do that. People who kind of halfway care, they do that. And they talk crazy over there. Oh wait, John's over there.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Chill out.
Apologize when they crazy. I'm sorry.
Oh, excuse me. Excuse me. And I'm like, okay. To me, that it makes me laugh inside, but at the same time, it's good. You know what I mean? Because when you think about, why does somebody really care if they're being kind of offensive to you, if somewhere in their mind they're not realizing that there's something wrong with what they're doing? Right. Like, if I don't care, like the ones who don't care just say whatever because they don't care. Right. But the ones who kind of somewhere in the back of their minds, there's something wrong with their behavior. Oh, my bad. My bad. I didn't mean to do that. You know what I mean?
I think it's like when you come around and like you said, you're different, and they know that you're on a spiritual path, that you bring condemnation around. Like, your presence condemns them, and they can feel it, and they they understand it. And so they apologize. It's like, it's like repentance almost, because they know they're sinning. They know they're doing wrong, and they're acknowledging the wrong that they're doing and saying, I'm sorry. Like, hey, man, you ain't got to tell me. Tell him. Yeah. Like, yeah. It's interesting, though. Very interesting. Yeah.
But I think that as a nation, that's how if we're in right standing with Yahweh, that's how we should be to all the other people around us. As you know what I mean? As a nation, they should be looking at us like there's something different about those people over there and those families. They're not like us. They have Yahweh on their side. Like, you know what I mean? I just think that that's how it should be if we're on the right side of the fence. You know what I mean? That we're on that right side. Because, and because we're on that right side, Yahweh's with us. It talks about him walking among you. You know what I mean? And, his face being upon us and him having respect unto us and looking upon us and observing us and helping us,
It goes both ways, though. When we're on the wrong side, they acknowledge that, too. Like, because we're getting the same kind of conversation about us negatively. Yeah. You know what I mean? When we're on the wrong side, like, they're like, look at those people. What's wrong with them?
I know.
You know what I mean? Like,
I look at us and say, what's wrong with them? Like,
exactly.
I be looking at us too.
So the cursing is really acknowledgeable too on it. Just like the blessings would be, acknowledgeable.
Yeah.
Like, oh, man, they got it going on. The cursing is like, oh man, them people was crazy. Right.
It's the same. It really is.
Yeah. So it's interesting to see. It's interesting to see how people deal with you, because you find some people that kind of hold you to a standard that they won't hold themselves. They won't hold themselves to, because or even try to catch you in something. Yeah, I mean, and they on the outside totally, but they see you doing something or proclaiming that you doing something, and then try to kick. Hold on, what you?
Yeah, don't say a word that sounds close to a cuss word. Like, hold on, man. I know you didn't just cuss. I heard you cuss, man. Like, really?
But I think at the end of the day, when you think about the idea of what Yeshua talks about in terms of being a light, that's what we're supposed to be. We're supposed to be a light to the nations. They're supposed to look and see, because when you look in verse 13 at the end where it says, verse 13, it says, I am Yahweh your Elohim, who brought you out of the land of Egypt, so that you would not be their slaves, and I broke the bars of your yoke and made you to walk erect. I made you to walk erect. 13. I made you to walk erect, upright. That word, well, it's from kum. It's that word there is kumim, kumimiyut, kumimiyut, which is the root of that is kum, which is rise up.
I can see the evolution is like saying, see, we was once, on all fours.
Yeah, let's not deal with it.
Yeah, no, right?
We're talking about walking in righteousness and rightness, uprightness.
So we're not, because he says it made you go upright. So that means when we was in bondage to Egypt, we was like bent over.
Right.
And like under that yoke.
He broke the bars of the yoke that was upon us. That's that bondage that, I have just gained some.
Come on. Just come over here.
Right. So we see all of these things that the Most High wants to do for his people, that he did do for his people, giving his people his ways to walk in. In verse 14 it says, but if you do not obey me and do not carry out all these commandments, if instead you reject my statutes, which is the same word that he used before, how he wasn't going to reject you. So we said that word was abhor or detest, right? So if you instead reject my statutes, and if your soul abhors my ordinances, so as to not to carry them out, and so break my covenant. So now he's talking about before how his soul didn't abhor you for you walking in his commandments. But now he's talking about you in your place of rejecting or abhorring or hating or detesting his commandments because you didn't do them. And your soul actually abhorring or detesting or having disdain for his ordinances. Like, how to get to all of that?
So before his soul was not going to abhor us, now our soul abhors him.
Well, he's saying that if your soul abhors my ordinances, my commandments, but that's just by you not doing it.
My judgment.
So to not do not to keep his judgments is the same as hating his statutes and hating his ordinances.
That's interesting, because I looked at it as if, this was him saying that if you don't keep my commandments and you despise his statutes and abhor his judgments, meaning that, like, not if you slip up. We all slip up, right? We all break the law. But I thought this was specifically for those who like, man, I'll never keep, man, you're crazy. The people who hate his commandments. And in their heart, they're saying, you know, they're basically rebelling. But those who, you know, love him and try to keep his commandments but fall short, like they shoot for the mark but fall short. I didn't think it was speaking to those. So you're saying even those who fall short, but they love it, but they just.
I think here is dealing with your baseline. What's your normal? If your normal is disobedience, then you hate his commands. If your normal is disobedience, then you abhor his statutes. So he's saying, if you are not able to be obedient to me, right? And instead of being obedient, he says, instead of being obedient, you reject my statutes. And if your soul abhors my ordinances, to me, the status of being disobedient is a picture of your wicked heart, right? Because it's talking about your soul. He says your nefesh abhors my ordinances and my judgments. Your inner desires hates my judgments, and you reject or detest my statutes. Right, so he's dealing with the motivation, right? It's not about shooting for the mark and missing. It's about blatant. So it's a difference between sin and transgression. Sin is, I'm trying to do the right thing, and then I didn't make it. The transgression is, I just didn't even care. Right, like I wasn't trying to do it. And then iniquity is a continuation of not trying to do it. So this is dealing with being in that state of disobedience. And you're in that state, why? Because on the inside, your heart is wicked. When we look at what Yeshua talks about, what he told to John in Revelation 3, verse 15 through 19. Let's see what that says. Revelation 3, verse 15 through 19. What does that?
Where am I at, Vic? Sorry.
I read it. Revelation 3, verse 15. I know thy works, that thou art neither cold nor hot. I would thou wert cold or hot. So because thou art lukewarm, and neither cold nor hot, I will spew thee out of my mouth. Because thou sayest, I am rich, and increase with goods, and have nothing, in need of nothing, and knowest not that thou art wretched, and miserable, and poor, and blind, and naked. You said to 19? I counsel thee to buy of me gold tried in the fire, that thou mayest be rich, and white raiment, that thou mayest be clothed, and that the shame of thy nakedness do not appear, and anoint thine eyes with eye salve, that thou mayest see. As many as I love, I rebuke and chasten. Be zealous, therefore, and repent.
Okay, so over there he's talking to that group of people who was lukewarm. Right? They really wasn't standing on the side of righteousness. They wasn't. They wasn't standing on the side of wickedness necessarily. They just standing in the middle. It was just kind of like, and I'm on the fence.
Right.
But on the fence, halfway living, you don't want that, right? He says, vomit you out. Right? He's heaving that out from the depths of his soul, right? It's not just spitting out, but vomit. When you vomit, you got that gut kind of tightens up and pushes that stuff up out of you, right?
Mhm.
So that's the same thing as talking about your soul, your inner desire detests, right? Your inner desire is for all of that stuff to get up out of you, right? And that stuff just comes, right? That vomit just
Oh my
goes,
goodness, that's disgusting.
right? But it's the same thought process of the one who's just on the fence. He's just like, I can, whatever.
I hate them type of dudes.
I'm not really committed to rightness. I'm not all the way evil, but you getting treated as if you are, though, right? You getting treated as if you all the way evil for not being hot. I'm saying hot is a good one. It could be cold is a good one. I'm saying.
Activated.
Yeah, cold is just
Cold is cold, man. Hot is the right way, man. You gotta be hot.
gotta be hot.
Cold food, being cold, all
Even
that.
when we look at this,
Molecules
right?
slow down. It is hot.
Yeah, you're dead, right? It's
Yeah,
hot.
exactly.
Right?
Moving around, your spirit is hot.
So when we look at these people, right, talking about rich I am, and I am made rich. Right, this is like what you was talking about before. It's like you got all of this stuff. I don't need nothing from you. Right? What do I need from you? I got everything I need.
That's crazy. All the rich people that go crazy, man, they say that they had all this stuff and they still empty. Like,
right, this ain't doing the story.
I mean, you see it in their kids. That's why their kids, are like junkies, totally cold junkies.
Yeah.
And, because it wasn't money. Like money.
I don't think money is like as good as what people make it out to be. It's really, I'll never forget. At the job I had, there's people there who literally made a lot of money. I wasn't one of those people yet, but I just remember I was talking to this one guy, and he was like really like, I guess he had like a little breakdown in front of me, and I was like, well, what's going on with you? I was like, it seemed like you have everything you could want here. I was like, you have these designations and you have this respect and everything like that. And then he said, but I don't sleep at night. He was like, do you get to sleep at night? And I was like, yeah, I have to sleep all the time. He was like, I don't sleep. He's like, I can't sleep. So it's like,
Stop it.
Even though he had, a 6-figure job and it seemed like he should have been happy, there was something. I didn't ask him any more questions. I don't want to know any of his, personal whatever. But you know what I mean? It's like, even though he had on the outside, it looked a certain way, there was obviously something that was on the inside of him that was causing him problems. And so it's like, you just can't look at the outside.
Well, I think the scripture talk about how, the wealthy man, basically, he don't get no sleep. He's worried about his money.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you're worried about, losing it all.
Right.
We wake up and make sure it's still there. But they worried about losing
That's the
it.
last thing I'm thinking about, some money.
Oh man.
Until I ain't got it. If I ain't got none at all, then I'm like, oh goodness. But the funny thing is, like, Yahweh is so good, man. I mean, even like when you down to your last, it's not going to be your last, and like I just had like a couple weeks ago, I had like all kind of checks bouncing in my account, I mean, and I had checks that I just didn't get them yet. Like it was like right after the Christmas, and and I don't celebrate Christmas or that, so I'm waiting for my checks. I'm like, what's going on with my checks? None of my checks had showed up, and so I had all kind of things bouncing in my account, and but I wasn't worried though. I wasn't worried like, oh man, I'm broke. I ain't got it. You know what I mean? And even though I was like right above water, I was like right in the neck, just my eyes just sticking out the water.
Eyes off the water.
But I never felt like, like man, I was about to drown. I never felt that way. I never feel that way. So, y'all always do.
Yeah, that's what because there's a difference between somebody who is you can't put your trust in that because that is nothing at the end of the day. You put your trust in the Most High, who's everything, right? So we able to be in a situation where seemingly could be a situation where people would, people go crazy over that kind of stuff. You know what I mean? And they get out and go out and start robbing people and all kind of craziness, because they putting trust in the wrong place.
Yeah.
So we got to be able to put our trust in the Most High. But and again, part of that is walking in His ways. It's a manifestation of that. What you say?
I was gonna say about mom. So was he not satisfied with what he had, or?
I don't know because I didn't ask him any more questions about his life. That was enough for me to know. I didn't need to know anymore. No, he's actually African. From like Cameroon or something.
All right, so when we look at what Yeshua was telling John in regards to the that assembly who was lukewarm, those people who at the end of the day you could say that those people reject the statutes, right? They're not standing on the statutes. They're not walking in the ordinances of the Most High. They're on the fence, right? So those people really, their soul really abhors the ordinances, and they actually hate the statutes because they're not walking in them. They're on the fence.
I think also about when you're a certain way for like Shabbat service, and then you're like a totally, like you run into somebody in the street and they, dress provocative, or it's like, okay, well, you was all covered up at service, and now I see you out here, you start just totally, night and day. Like you could be one way at one time and then a different way at a different time. That's being lukewarm too, because obviously there's a part of you that abhors the ordinances and the statutes and the commandments. You might be able to subject yourself to them for a certain amount of time, but to subject your entire life to it, you're not willing to do. And there's a lot of, I think that's what hypocrisy is, where you can, it's kind of like a facade, you know what I mean? But that's not what's in your heart, like,
Look at John 14:15. It says, if you love me, you shall guard my commands. Right? If you love me, the manifestation of that is that you guard my commands.
That's what comes out.
So you not walking in righteousness is proof that you don't guard the commandments. And it's proof that you don't love the Most High. In fact, it kind of shows that you hate the Most High. There ain't no middle ground, right? There's not a middle ground. It's just, I like them. Just don't love them. Right. It's love or hate, right? Either you love them or you hate them. If you don't love them, then you hate them.
Or even an acknowledgement of it. Not even like love or like or hate. It's just like I'm acknowledging him and I understand that this is what's asked of me, but I'm just gonna do something else.
Yeah.
But that's hate.
And sometimes
It
people,
is.
but sometimes people don't even recognize that it's hate.
Well, that's what we bringing out right here.
I mean,
It
sometimes
is
people don't even recognize it. You know,
you sometimes even really you hate the Most High. It's not like I mean I really like him, but you know I just
I mean, you
doing
know,
my thing.
I look at our grown children, and you know they look at it, and this is how they grew up, and they're fine with it, and they don't have a hate towards the things of Yahweh. It's just something they don't want to do. They look at it as just a choice. They just decide they don't want to do it. But it's not like they're like, I hate Yahweh, I hate this
You're not saying
Sabbath, I hate these commandments.
but they doing it.
But through their actions.
They're not saying they hate them, but really they do.
Based
Based on the actions. If you love me, he says, you'll guard my commandments. So we're talking about guarding his commandments. We're talking about actually doing all the things that make sure that these things get done. Like guarding. If I'm guarding, I'm not letting things get in my way. That's going to stop me from doing what he would have me to do. Right? That's guarding. Right? So again, going back to Leviticus, that's what we're dealing with these ones that's being, if you're going to be disobedient, he says this is what that is. Right? He go ahead and just say what that disobedience is. And then now see we see the reverse. We see the reverse of the when we see in verse 9 where it says, so I will turn toward you. In verse 9, when we get down to verse 17, he says, I will set my face against you, so that you will be struck down before your enemies. Those who hate you will rule over you, and you will flee when no one is pursuing you. So now this thing, now that he's doing with his face, now is negative. Right? And it's Natan. What? 17. Verse 17. Set my face.
Yeah. When I think of Natan, I always think of a gift. Like people are named Nathaniel. That's hers.
Yeah.
I think it is. Yeah, it's hers. It's hers. Yeah. If it was right here.
Okay, so when we look, keep on going down, we see some things being said. If verse 18, if also after these things you do not obey me, then I will punish you 7 times more than your sins, and I will also break down your pride of power. I will break down your pride of power. Break down your arrogancy, your excellency, your pomp of strength. Right? So when we look at what happens, when we think about, kind of the progression of things, when you sometimes when you're doing okay, right, when things are going your way, you don't recognize how you got to that place in the first place, right? When we're not able to acknowledge the power that puts us in these places, right? This is the thing that the Most High is breaking down. Because you looking at your own strength, your own ability, and not dealing with the one who actually is the reason for the blessing, right? So when we look at this, what the Most High is doing, talking about her punishing 7 times for the sins, and then what he says he'll do, breaking down the pride of power, that's where we are when we think about the place that you are in that sin is where I'm in control, right? I don't have to. When you get to the place when you're just living a life that's not connected to the things that Yahweh would have for you to be doing, at the end of the day, you're in control. You're the one who has the power, right? Which is pride, which is arrogance, right? It's that swelling up, that puffing up that we notice, in little kids when they grow up. Kids, they grow up and they begin to feel themselves, right? And that's when they stop. They start to stop paying attention to the instructions, right? And they feel like everything's supposed to be to my liking only, right? And whatever, right? But we do that as little kids, but we do that as grown-ups as well, right? When we just we not paying attention to the things that we know to be right, and we just doing the things that feel good, right? We doing the things that's convenient. We do the things that appease at the end of the day our carnal minds. You're always breaking this down, right? When we fall out of obedience, right?
What's our base nature? Is our base nature, like, we're talking about the whole base thing. Is our base nature to go according to our carnal thoughts and what we want to do?
Well, as a human being, yes. It's pacifying your carnal mind.
So the base nature of serving Yahweh is contrary to the way that we're made.
Yeah, that's the thing that Paul talks about. Yeah. So going against the carnal mind is at enmity with the mind of the spirit, right? Your carnal mind wants for you to go out and do all the things that make your flesh feel good, right? We're animals. There's a guy that I was talking to that was just so offended by me saying that, but at the end of the day,
he was an animal.
Nefesh, your soul, your animal soul, yourself, you're an animal.
But why would he be offended? That's what they teach in school.
Well, he's somebody who's probably in denial with many things in this situation. I mean, this particular person has actually done some terrible things. And he should be offended, right? Because
he is an animal.
He literally is an animal.
People don't like to be called what they are.
Well, they're real comfortable nowadays. They call themselves beasts. They call themselves monsters. They call themselves all these different things. That's the new language. I'm a beast.
Right.
I'm a monster.
I never thought of that.
And they're real proud. They got a lot of pride about it too.
I'm a savage.
I'm an animal.
Yeah.
I'm a savage.
People literally go around calling themselves.
No, yeah, that's
I'm an animal in these streets. I'm a beast out here. Nobody wanted with me. I'm a monster.
But it's the truth. You know what I mean?
So the base nature of
coming
serving Yahweh is contrary to the base
right.
nature.
So we have to, as Paul talks about in put our flesh into subjection, because your flesh wants to serve itself. Your flesh wants to serve itself.
That's a good video too. I got like three good video ideas today. Put that one down too.
So, you know, that's what we're dealing with, right? So that's what the Most High is breaking down, where he says he's going to break down your pride of power. He's going to break down in you the idea that you are the master of yourself, the master of things, right? When we declare that Yahweh is our Elohim, right? He has the power, right? And he deserves the honor and respect. And you know how we do that is by walking in his way. So he says that I will, as a result, also in verse 18, I will also make your sky like iron and your earth like bronze. Your sky will be like iron and your earth will be like bronze. Again, he's dealing with these physical things that will happen. He talks a lot about the kind of agricultural aspect of things, because you know we in these times, you know, we're agricultural people, right? So if your sky is like iron, if it's hard, if it's dry, your earth will be the same. And you know, you obviously won't have things you know, growing and thriving in that situation. What does let me see what this says. Ezekiel 33. Ezekiel 33 and 28 says, for I will lay the land most desolate, and the pomp of her strength shall cease. And the mountains of Israel shall be desolate, and none shall pass through. So when we think about this idea of the sky and being like iron and the earth being like bronze, I think there's a verse where that's actually reversed. It's giving you the same concept of, you know, not how it starts off in the beginning, receiving that rain in due season,
which is the basic pattern of the earth, is to get rain in season.
Right.
So
but when you look at the agricultural kind of seasonal thing that happens in Israel, where they have these two seasons of rain that come, you know, they need every bit that they get. And one of them, it says here, the periodic rains on which the fertility of the Holy Land so much depends are spoken of here. There are two wet seasons called in Scripture the former and the latter rain. The former, or autumn rain, falls in heavy showers in November and December and March. The latter rain, or spring rains, comes on which is precarious in quantity and duration and rarely lasts more than 2 days.
Really? 2 days? Wow. That's like at the end of the feast.
Well, that's in the springtime.
Oh, in the spring, I mean.
So it's just like a little bit of rain,
but it activates.
But it does activate, and it's necessary. But when we look at this, Yahweh is saying he'll hold that back, right? If you're not walking in his ways.
So the latter rain is in. Wait, is it the former rain that's in the fall?
Yeah.
Former. November, like after a feast.
Mhm.
And then the spring rain is in the spring.
Yes, that's correct. Okay, so when we go down here, we see more of this same language in terms of our our unspoken attitude that we would be having when we don't walk in his ways. Verse 20, your strength will be spent uselessly, for your land will not yield its produce, and the trees of the land will not yield the fruit. If then you act with hostility against me and are unwilling to obey me, I will increase the plague on you 7 times according to your sins. Right? So again, the idea of disobedience or having this unwillingness to be obedient is referred to as acting with hostility against the Most High. Hostile, that word kari, which means a hostile encounter or contrary. I think it says contrary probably in the King James. You act contrary against me.
Hostile, they use that in the military. We got 2 hostiles in here.
Right.
You don't want to be a hostile.
Right. So we see this over and over again. We see this same idea, this hostile encounters, this contrariness in verse 23. And if by these things you are not turned to me, but act with hostility against me. Verse 24, then I will act with hostility against you. And even I will strike you 7 times. Verse 27, yet in spite of this, you do not obey me, but act with hostility against me, then I will act with wrathful hostility against you and punish you 7 times for your sins. Right? So
like he keeps repeating himself a little bit here. Like, you just keep on not listening.
You keep on not doing it.
Just keep on not doing it. I'm just gonna keep on increasing.
Keep on doing this. Right? So again, we do see a relationship. We see discipline. We see chastising. We see the fact that Yahweh's dealing with his people in a way that he wants for his people to turn back to him. But the thing that I was just thinking about was the idea that when we think about this thing that can seemingly be passive, Yahweh's not calling that thing passive. He's calling it aggressive. Right? When we think about a thing where we're not doing something, we're kind of just passive. We're not doing it. It's not like I'm not doing nothing to you. I'm just not doing nothing. Yahweh's saying you're doing something to me. Right? You're being hostile towards me. Right? By being in that disobedience. It's a definite act that you're doing unto him. It's not as if it's not kind of this neutral. It's not a neutral kind of a thing that's going on. And I think, when I see these words being used, that's the thought that comes to my mind, is the fact that these things are intentional actions that you're performing against the Most High by this disobedience.
I wanted to say something that came to my mind, right? Because most times when we're thinking about a lot of what's going on, we're thinking of it from a low level, like it's your ordinary person that is doing all of this wrong, right? But we never,
What you mean?
well, what I'm saying is we never look at it from like a top down perspective, meaning that the people on the top are wicked. Like if you think about what was going on when they were led out of Egypt in the wilderness, it wasn't the bottom people that were asking Aaron to create this golden calf. It wasn't the bottom people that were kind of leading these revolts against Yahweh. It was the leaders. And even today, you have the same mindset. Like, who is the people that are putting all of these wicked messages out for little children to mimic and all of that? These are rich people. These are people who are sitting high and they're looking low. And so who is destroying the earth right now? It's not, little Ray Ray from the block. You know what I'm saying? It's not him. It's who's putting the chemtrails in the sky. Who's, perverting the airways with, and perverting the minds of children with homosexuality, all of these different messages. It's people in power. So as I was writing down that idea, the Holy Spirit put in my mind, like, you got to really like start looking at things from the top down instead of from the bottom up, because it's the people at the top, the spiritual wickedness in high places that are really setting the tone for the world. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, but at the same time, you can't take away the responsibility of the individual. Even though we have these things that are put in place, these systems that are put in place, the systems of wickedness that kind of shape us and mold us and kind of push us in a certain direction. It don't take away from the responsibility of the individuals.
Oh, definitely. I'm not saying Scooter Loke is innocent. I'm not saying that.
So those things are true, that you do have these. It's an all-encompassing kind of thing. But whenever I think about the people, just going off what you said in terms of the leaders being wicked, when the 12 spies went into the land and spied out, and 10 of those spies came back with that negative report. Yahweh said, no man over the age of 20 is going to go into the land because of what them 10 people did. So what about all of those people? Why do they gotta sit up there and be judged based on what these 10 people did? Well, I'm saying because all of those people died in their own iniquity. So yes, you did have, and where's the verse where it talks about the daughters? Yeah.
Numbers 27. Sorry.
27 verse 2 says, and they stood before Moshe and before Eleazar the priest, before the princes and all the congregation by the door of the tabernacle of the congregation, saying, our father died in the wilderness, And he was not in the company of them that gathered themselves together against Yahweh in the company of Korah, but died in his own sin and had no sons. So we see an example where we're talking about Korah's rebellion, for instance, was a thing where you had Korah, he was up there in the pecking order of things, right? In terms of he led people, right? But there was people that followed him. And there was a whole bunch of people that died based on this rebellion thing that he came about, where people had to still choose to follow him. And here we have the daughters of Zelophehad and never saying, well, that happened in the wilderness. All the people perished. But, our dad, he didn't die with them sinners. He died from his own sin. And the same thing could be said for all the people who died in the wilderness, not just because Yahweh made this blanket statement that everybody gonna die because of what these 10 people did, but everybody because of the mindset of the people and their inability to be able to actually trust in the Most High, they're going to die in the wilderness. So it's almost as if it's a sentence for a thing that didn't happen yet. Right? You getting sentenced for this thing that's going to end up killing you beforehand. Not as if it's this thing that's unjust. So
you didn't get sentenced for the sins of somebody else.
You got sentenced for your own sin. Right. So I agree, but I also wanted to make sure to put the emphasis on people's individual responsibility.
Yes, definitely. I wasn't saying that they're innocent. No, by no means. But I think, the most of the world, when they look at, the people who are doing the wrong thing, it's always they're looking at the people at the bottom. And then the people at the top go unnoticed, as if, the president and everybody else is just above reproach.
Isn't that the same thing like with the way the system works with the drug dealers?
Right.
The little teenagers is the ones that get locked up and they get but the people on top, the government actually be funding the drugs.
Yeah, exactly.
And they're the ones that are going unnoticed.
Right. They're the one that they had a big case. It was Contra scandal. And the government was actually funding a war with drugs they put in our community. And none of them people went to jail. Only the people in our community went to jail.
Yeah. So it's the same thing. Now when we look at these things and we think about the state of Israel, and we think about how where we are, right? And we looking like we contrasted from the beginning, Leviticus 26 with Deuteronomy 28. We think about the curses and all these things that are on this people. You can't look at them people and be mad at them people for being the executors of the judgment. If the Most High at the end of the day is saying, you wrong, no, you done messed up. Chris,
get this dude.
Yeah, get the strap on.
Let's go to war. It's like
at the end of the day, yeah, you might be mad because he's the one executing the judgment on you.
But I brought it upon myself.
You brought it upon yourself, and I told him to do it.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. But because of your actions,
yeah,
he's carrying out my judgment.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, it comes back to you, really.
Right.
Because if you would have been walking in righteousness in the first place, I wouldn't have to say Chris.
Right.
But what we do is we sit up here looking at the Chris in the situation when really it's the job.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Where we putting all this energy towards the ones who hate us, the ones that's over us that hate us.
Right.
we putting all our energy towards them. Where at the end of the day, they hate you because of your disobedience to the Most High.
We focusing on the result instead of the cause. The result is them, what they doing, we the cause of it though.
Right.
So yeah.
So it's a lot of people doing that. So I'm saying that yes, it's all wickedness. And it's systematic wickedness. And the faster people figure these things out, the easier it's going to be to move beyond it.
Right, yeah.
But on top of that, behind all of that is the fact that it's judgment at the end of the day for disobedience. So if we get that straight, everything else is going to just fall into place.
Yeah. Because at this point, a drug dealer should know if I sell drugs and the cops catch me, I'm going to jail. Now, I mean, at this point, maybe not when they first flooded the community with it, but after decades and it's the same thing, the end result, it's like, you can't see it now.
It's ending negatively.
Right.
Yeah, but it is lunacy. Because it's lunacy.
It's just like
it's been going on for all this time, and you still got people doing it.
Right. It's just like going to the gym, saying you gonna ride a bike. You want to go for a ride on a bike, and it's the stationary bike. You just pedaling.
But the mind getting nowhere.
Ain't going nowhere. This is the same thing over and over. You're in the same spot.
But then, from their perspective, though. That's all you give them. See, I get your point is it's like we being controlled. Like we being controlled to sin. Like it's like the trap that's set up for us to only see sin, to only see that this is the only way out. This is the only direction I got. And it's like, I mean, I look, when you look at the community, it seems like that's a reality for them. That's all they see. And like that's one dynamic that has to be put out there for them to see, contrary to it. Like, you look past what they put in front of you, because what they put in front of you is what's keeping you there. Or, it's keeping you.
Some people even say that it's strategic to keep us in this position so that they would always stay in their position.
And folks say that. If they keep us from worshiping the Most High, we would stay here.
And so they see it as like, well, we keep them down, we'll stay up forever.
There's not a way out. There's not a way out of this thing unless you turn back to the Most High.
Right. And do they know that? And if they do know that, they try to prevent us from turning back.
That's why they got that bacon cheeseburger from Wendy's on sale.
Oh my God.
I'm telling you. The Baconator. I mean, they make it extreme wicked on you, Come on now. They know. They know. Come on, the Red Lobster. A whole place dedicated to that type of food. Come on now.
That's how they roll.
Yep. But that's our enemy, and like you said, that's the result of us
there's only one way out.
Right.
There's only one way out of this thing that we in. And I think we're gonna switch over into John because I don't want to. Not.
Are we going to? We're not going to read the next last.
We're gonna skip over 27 verse John 15. Because it ties into where we at.
Okay. Let me just take Ari. Ari.
Somebody read 15.
You said verse 15?
No, chapter 15. John.
I'll read it.
I'm about to say, you going?
I am the true vine, and my Father is in my eyes is a little blurry lately. So
that you read it?
I'm trying to not use them. I am the true vine, and my Father is the husbandman. Every branch in me that beareth not fruit, he taketh away. And every branch that beareth fruit, he purgeth it, that it may bring forth more fruit. Now ye are clean through the word which I have spoken unto you. Abide in me, and I in you, as the branch cannot bear fruit of itself, except it abide in the vine. No more can ye, except ye abide in me. I am the vine, ye are the branches. He that abideth in me, and I in him, the same bringeth forth fruit. The same bringeth forth much fruit. For without me ye can do nothing. If a man abide not in me, he is cast forth as a branch, and it withered, and is withered. Excuse me. And men gather them and cast them into the fire, and they are burned. If ye abide in me, and my words abide in you, ye shall ask what ye will, and it shall be done unto you. Herein is my Father glorified, that ye bear much fruit, so ye shall be my disciples. As the Father hath loved me, so have I loved you. Continue ye in my love. If you keep my commandments, ye shall abide in my love, even as I have kept my Father's commandments, and abide in his love. These things have I spoken unto you, that my joy might remain in you, and that your joy might be full. This is my commandment, that ye love one another as I have loved you. Greater love hath no man than this, that a man lay down his life for his friends. Ye are my friends, if you do whatsoever I command you. Henceforth I call you not servants, for the servant knoweth not what his Lord doeth. But I have called you friends, for all things that I have heard of my Father I have made known unto you. Ye have not chosen me, but I have chosen you, and ordained you that ye should go and bring forth fruit, that your fruit should remain, and whatsoever ye ask, whatsoever ye shall ask of the Father in my name, he may give it you. These things I command you, that ye love one another. If the world hate you, you know that it hated me before it hated you. If you were of the world would love its own. But because ye are not of the world, but I have chosen you out of the world, therefore the world hateth you. Remember the word that I said unto you. The servant is not greater than his Lord. If they have persecuted me, they will also persecute you. If they have kept my sayings, they will keep yours also. But all these things will they do unto you for my name's sake, because they know not him that sent me. If I had not come and spoken unto them, they had not had sin. But now they have no cloak for their sin. He that hateth me hateth my Father also. If I had not known among them the works which none other man did, they had not had sin. But now have they both seen and hated both me and my Father. But this cometh to pass, that the word might be fulfilled that is written in their law. They hated me without cause. But when the Comforter is come, whom I will send unto you, the Father, even the Spirit of the truth, which proceedeth from the Father, ye shall testify of me. And ye also shall bear witness, because ye have been with me from the beginning.
Okay. All right, so All right, so when we look back at the beginning here, and we can see some similarities between what Yeshua is saying here and what we just looked at back in Leviticus chapter 26. Verse 1 says, I am the true vine, and my Father is the vine dresser. So when we think about this idea of a vine dresser, a husbandman, a cultivator, a tiller of the soil. You think about a tiller of the soil, someone who gets the soil ready, someone who deals with the soil. Like if you want to plant a thing, you have to go and you have to get the soil ready. Right? You don't just go out and look at the dirt and take a seed and put it right in just some grass.
Yeah.
Right? You gotta make the thing ready.
I tried that before.
Oh, did you?
When I was younger, I thought it would work. You know
Yeah,
what I
no,
mean? Yeah, well, you don't have no idea.
Older. Right? You gotta get all that other stuff out of the way where you only just dealing with the thing that you put in the dirt. Right? So that cultivator, that vine dresser, that husbandman, he's doing that farmer, that tiller of the ground, the one who labors in the ground. That's what he's doing. So that's what Yeshua here is referring back to the Father as, is the one who prepares the ground and makes everything ready. And then Yeshua being that one that was planted, that vine. Right? So when the main vine begins to grow, out of that vine are all of the little branches that come out, and where the leaves and the fruit and all that stuff comes off of the branches. Now, when I look at this, right, I'm able to kind of intelligently speak about this idea because I've seen how the vine grows. Right? You plant the thing, and it grows. And it's interesting how this vine, how it comes out and it has these little tentacles that stick out and attach itself to things, and it would literally go and tie itself into a knot. It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy how these little tentacles will come out and tie little knots in itself. Like, I'm not sitting up there doing it. Like, I go out there and I see this stuff that grows out and loops around and then goes up in through like a knot and attaches itself to things and grows. But so as it grows, what you want to do is each year you want to cut the branches off. Right? And so I've done this out here. It goes up and I have three poles in a row, and I have cord going across on 2 levels. And so over the years, as it grows up, I put it on I put it where I want it to grow at. And the extra parts I cut off. So it talks about every branch in me that bears not fruit, he takes away, and every branch that bears fruit, he purges it, that it may bring forth more fruit. So when you think about purging and taking away, it's kind of the same thing, right? I'll cut off these kind of branches where I don't want it to grow. I'll cut that off and I'll throw that away. But where I do want it to grow, I'm still cutting, but I'm cutting with the idea that when I cut, more is going to come after the fact. So when you think about this idea, again, we look back at the idea of Yahweh turning towards his people. He sees you. He sees what you're doing. He notices what you're doing. If you're stepping out of line, he's coming with the correction. Correction sometimes is painful. It hurts. Right? But he's giving out that correction. He's giving out that thing that's going to hurt you so that he can better you.
Right.
So it's the same idea when you look at this idea of a branch of a vine that's growing. It's growing fruit. Why would I cut it? Because if you don't cut it, it's not going. More fruit ain't gonna come. So you got to cut it back so that more fruit comes.
If I could add something too, because even with tomatoes, it's kind
tomatoes
of like
is a vine. It's the same.
Yeah, and I think they call it pruning, right?
Pruning.
Is that the specific term? It's not only do more for more to come, but for the fruit that you have on there to be sweeter and more plentiful too, so that all the nutrients then go into these random places. You have to take up some of it off so it can be juicier when you're ready to.
Yeah. It's almost as if you direct the nutrients. I don't want these nutrients to be wasted on these branches that are just going where I don't want them to go. I want all the nutrients to be directed to the branches that are going where I want them to go. So I'm gonna cut all of those off, and even I'm gonna cut the superfluous branches back off of the one that I want. So that the next time, like right now, you go out there, it looks crazy out there because over the season, like every year, it gets bigger and bigger. And I start off with something that's less than what it was, but it grows back more because that's what the vine dresser does. It goes and he prunes, and cuts back. So the branches I don't want to come back, the places where I don't want it to go, I cut that off. I throw those in. The branches that I do want, I'm going to shape those in the way that I want for them to go so that I have more. So it's the same idea. Here's what he's dealing with. The father, who is the husbandman, Yeshua dealing with himself, is that vine. The vine where the branches, where we grow out from the vine, we get our substance, our sustenance from the vine, and we're able to have fruit because we're connected to the vine. So when you think about the fruit, looking back at Leviticus 24, where Yahweh is talking about the people and the blessings. If you're connected to Yahweh, you're going to get the blessings. Or if you're connected to the giver of life, you're going to have those blessings that's associated with it. Right? It's the same thing that Yeshua was saying here, dealing with him being the vine and us, his followers, the disciples of Yeshua, actually being the branches of those that grow out from him. Verse 4 says, abide in me and I in you, as the branch cannot bear fruit of itself except it abide in the vine. No more can you except you abide in me. So when we think about when you think about this idea of receiving blessings, and even what Yahweh was doing or said he was going to do to the people, he said he was going to destroy their pride of power. He was going to destroy that thing in them that caused the people to feel like they was the one in control of everything. He was going to destroy that thing in them that was caused them to be like a branch that grows and bears fruit that's not connected to the vine. So when we think about where we are, even today, where, eventually we want to get people to understand that we are like these withering branches that have been cut off from the vine, where we can be attached back to the vine so that we can grow. That's an interesting thing. I got some stuff over there that I got from my Aunt Sylvette. I have these branches over there, these grapevines, because she went to the grapevine and cut the thing off and put this stuff on it put it in water and put these nutrients in it and cause it to be able to grow of itself. Because if you just go and cut off a branch off there and stick it in some water, ain't nothing gonna happen. Ain't nothing gonna happen.
You see a nice little dead branch.
That's all you want. Dead branch and some water. It's not necessarily like I can go and like pull some mint out the ground because mint grow like crazy. I can pull some mint out the ground, stick that in some water, and it grow.
Oh, really?
Something, but this thing over here is different. I can't just cut a branch off and stick it in some. I can't remove the branch from the vine and it just grow fruit of itself. It don't, for whatever reason, it don't. You got to kind of train it in a way to make it know that it's supposed to be doing it.
Yeah.
You know, all that stuff, I don't even know. I got to talk to my aunt's vet to find out what that stuff even is, actually. But the idea is that the branch needs the vine to grow. You know, we're the branch. Yeshua is the vine. We need Yeshua to be able to grow. When we think about what it is that Yeshua provides for us, again, it's looking back to preventing us from being in that place that got us to where we are right now in the first place. We was walking in disobedience. So now when we think about being in the vine, when we think about being, receiving from Yeshua, that thing that he makes available to us is what? The character of Yahweh inside of us. That strength, power, and ability to be able to walk in the commandments of Yahweh. He wants to provide for us these spiritual nutrients that's going to produce in us fruit, spiritual fruit. Right? When we think about the fruits of the Spirit, we're only talking about characteristics of Yahweh. Right? When we think about love and joy and peace and long suffering, temperance, and all of these things, right? There's characteristics that we exhibit when we walk in the Spirit. So this is what he's talking about here. So if we not manifesting these characteristics, if we not bearing forth fruit, then we become worthless to the vine, and we get snipped off and thrown into the fire. Right? So when we not manifesting that fruit, when we not walking in the Spirit, when we not allowing Yeshua to actually work inside of us and fill us full of nutrients, spiritual nutrients, and manifest in us this fruit that comes out, and we don't allow that stuff to happen, we become worthless. Right? So he starts off talking about this whole idea of this branch and these vines and these fruits and these purgings and casting away and being burned and all that. And then he goes down in verse 9, as the Father hath loved me, so have I loved you. Continue in my love. Verse 10, if you keep my commandments, this is how you abide in my love. That's what it says. You shall abide in my love. If you keep my commandments, you shall abide in my love, even as I have kept my Father's commandments and abide in his love. So, he connects it for us in terms of dealing with this idea of abiding in the vine. He's the vine. Abide in him. Oh, if I abide in him, I'm able to love him and love. If you keep my commandments, you shall abide in my love. So you walking in the commandments is a picture of you abiding in his love. And then verse 12, this is my commandment, that you love one another as I love you. So again, it's just dealing with, at the end of the day, really just being a manifestation of Yeshua. When you think about this idea of Yeshua being the vine and we being the branches, if I look at a branch that's connected to a vine, it's not as if I'm going to differentiate the branch from the vine. I'm going to just think, oh, that's my grapevine. It's all one thing. I look at it and I just see one thing there, right? So, that's how it should be in terms of us with Yeshua in us. When people see us, they should see Yeshua in us, right? They shouldn't see the individual. They should see Yeshua in you, who they should see who and what you are internally. It should be something that's manifest on the outside. And again, you don't know a thing unless I don't know that that's a grapevine unless eventually some grapes grow off of it. There's wild grapes growing in the alley. There's wild grapevine growing in the alley. I don't know grapes growing on it because this grows wild. No grapes grows on it because it hasn't been properly pruned over the years. You can look at it, it looks exactly like what I got, except there's no fruit on it. So I guess I don't really know what it is.
So it's like that's deep too, because it's not being cared for. So it's like how the Most High would care over us, through Yeshua, and you can bear fruit if you care for, but that's out in the wilderness. It's just out.
You don't have a husband.
Don't got nobody to look after it, so it ain't going. It's just out.
The husbandman done turned his face from that van.
Man, yeah.
Right? Done turned his face.
Tony, it's in the back. Your back alley. You letting it go. You could have adopted that there. You know what I mean? I'm messing with you. You could have transplanted it.
I could cut it down and graft it into one of my things. But
you don't know where it been.
But
you don't know where that thing been.
Yeah.
You really don't know what it is, like you said.
Right.
It looks like it, but
it looks exactly the same.
Oh, okay.
Except that there ain't no fruit. And you only know about his fruit.
Yeah.
So when we look at John 15 and comparing it to Leviticus 26, and with this idea of only knowing the tree by its fruit, Israel, should actually look a certain way. Right? Israel's supposed to be a light to the nations. Israel's supposed to be a nation of kings and priests. Israel's supposed to be a people that influences the world around, not that is influenced by the world around. So Yahweh wants for us to look a certain way. And when we don't look the way that he wants for us to look, he's either going to do things that cause us to turn back to him, or he's going to turn away from us and not deal with us at all. Right? He's going to cut us off and for us to be burned. Right? So the choice is it's pretty obvious. Okay, so does anybody have any thoughts, comments about any of that stuff?
I have a quick question.
Go ahead.
Just how important do you think, and anyone can answer this, but how important do you think it is for us to go back to how we used to live? Like, we're dealing with agriculture right now, and we're talking about being able to be a witness to seeing things grow, tending to those types of things. Like, how important do you think it is for us to go back to that, to be able to connect with the scriptures on a more deeper level?
I think it's tremendously important. I feel like when you look at the teachings of Yeshua, he's talking to you and teaching you a lesson, but you got to first go back and learn about agriculture to understand the lesson that he's trying to teach you. Like there's a portion removed from the thing, right? When he's sitting up here talking to us about this, and you know, we got nothing but concrete around us and don't know what in the world he's even talking about.
It's hard to make
for one.
Yeah.
So to do that for one, you know, helps you. It brings out more in the scriptures and things that Yeshua's even teaching you. But beyond that, you think about, you know, you think about the trust that we put in these people who provide us with food. They say that they telling you what's in it. All you can do is just believe what they say.
I don't believe it.
You know, they really got us in a place where, you know, you can't provide for yourself. You can't. You don't know how to do it. If somebody gave you all the tools that you needed and put you into some land somewhere, you probably end up killing that land and dying. You know what I mean? Because you're totally removed from that. You don't know nothing about it. You're totally dependent on people who, we talked about this already.
Yeah.
You're totally dependent on people who's your enemy,
Right.
to provide for you everything.
Clothes,
Everything.
water,
Everything.
Yeah.
It don't matter what you get ready to say. It's everything.
Air.
They provide all of that.
I'm sure they could turn that off too.
So I'm saying it is so important for us to all be trying to get back to that.
Yeah.
Because you know it's crazy how, you know, I go out here, I'm on this job, I go out here an hour away from the city, and it don't matter, even travel an hour in any direction from Pittsburgh, and you in the country, and them people out there, they sitting up there, they growing their food, you know what I mean? They got all this land and stuff and animals.
Yeah, they got.
I don't know what I'm supposed to do with a cow. You know what I mean? I don't know what I'm supposed to do with that thing.
Yeah.
I did.
We're just totally removed from even just knowing how to just survive.
Yeah.
You know, technology, I mean, I guess it's good. You know what I mean? But at the same time, it kind of retards you.
Oh, yeah.
You don't know how to provide for yourself.
Dependent on it.
Yeah. The Walmart, Food Land, and all that shut down. Then what?
I'm telling you, look, I know telephone numbers from before cell phones to this day, right? But the numbers that I call today, I don't know none of them.
Right.
Yeah, me neither.
But I know all the numbers back in the day. My friend's number, Butter's number. I know all the numbers I used to call.
Right.
I don't know none of the numbers.
I don't know what your number is.
I don't know. If I had this phone, I couldn't call nobody.
That's what I'm saying. One day I was like, I
I'll be
got
calling you
arrested.
too. I'll be talking to you on the phone. I don't know what your number is.
Right?
Yeah, like I was thinking, like if I got arrested, not for bed, you know, you get your phone call. I'm like, can I get my phone? Because I don't know anybody's
who am I
number.
calling?
I wonder if they do that.
Well,
Anyway, I don't know.
I know.
So that's just a small example.
It
right?
is, but
Where it's a
even-
phone,
yeah,
where it's
yeah.
something that, you
Yeah.
know, but what about like just getting some food? Just like going out in the woods and knowing what's poison and what's good for you.
Yeah. Yep. Just that.
I be eating all kind of bushes.
So I think that is extremely important for us to be able to just survive.
That's like reconnecting. That's like going back to what you were saying before. Like having a baseline.
Yeah.
It's like we so disconnected from the baseline in terms of just living.
When you're doing that, you're connected to the Most High. Because right now, I'm gonna go out here and go to work, and then Wellington gonna give me some money, and then I'm gonna send Tears out to the store to get some food from the grocery store. I'm really depending on all of these other people instead of just depending on the Most High.
Right.
I got these seeds. I'm gonna go out here and I'm gonna get into this system that He created,
Yeah.
and then I'm
His
gonna wait
system,
for Him to
right?
bless me with it, or not.
Wow. That's good.
All it takes is one natural disaster or man-made disaster, and what we gonna do? Supermarkets gonna shut down. Everything gonna shut down.
Yeah.
What you gonna do?
Yeah.
But even too, learning more Hebrew, a lot of it is more concrete than the abstract language that we speak today. So it's like if you don't sometimes understand how they used to live back then, it's kind of hard to connect even just some Hebrew. I can't think of any examples right now, but it's like if you knew some of the things that they did and how they lived, those examples are being shown through that.
Right.
Like how they were living. This is why I'm saying what I'm saying is because you used to do this.
Right. And it's something that we're disconnected from. We're not connected to any of that stuff.
It's kind of tough.
We gotta sit up there and relearn all these things and go back to something that we don't even know about. But again, it goes all based on, if we go back far enough, it goes back to the fact that, you know, it's people with disobedience. And now we sitting up in there, you know, in this place of, you know, exile. Right? And we're returning back to the Father, but we don't really know exactly what we're returning back to, because it's something that we not really connected to. It's like we're just learning about it, like even now. So I'm saying it's so.
What
important.
about going back to Leviticus though? Where is it that they come back? Did you even talk about that?
Oh, at the end? Yeah, there's a happy ending at the end, right? Happy endings at the end. Verse 40. If they confess their iniquity and the iniquity of their fathers, the forefathers, in their unfaithfulness which they committed against me, and also in their acting with hostility against me, I also was acting with hostility against them, to bring them into the land of their enemies. Or if their uncircumcised heart becomes humble, so that they make amends for their iniquity, then I will remember my covenant with Jacob. I will remember also my covenant with Isaac, my covenant with Abraham as well, and I will remember the land. For the land will be abandoned by them, and will make up for its Sabbaths while it is made desolate without them. They meanwhile will be making amends for their iniquity, because they rejected my ordinances, and their soul abhorred my statutes. Yet in spite of this, when they are in the land of their enemies, I will not reject them, nor will I so abhor them as to destroy them, breaking my covenant with them, for I am Yahweh their Elohim. But I will remember for them the covenant with their ancestors, which I brought them out of the land of Egypt, in the sight of the nations, so on and so forth. So we see, you know, if we have that confession of our iniquity, our own iniquity, and our forefathers' iniquity, and that all of that unfaithfulness and all of that hostility that we had, if we turn away, if we teshuvah, if we return back to the Father, if we humble our hearts, right, and make amends for our iniquity, you know, how do we do that, right? How do we do that? Yeshua, attaching ourselves to the vine, right? So here, you know, it talks about that way back for Israel. Excuse me. It talks about that way back for Israel. That confession, that humbling, that making amends of the iniquities, which is totally necessary, right? So again, we're able to see this, you know, as opposed to, you know, the picture that's painted for us in Deuteronomy, where there is a destruction. Where here it says in verse 44, yet in spite of this, when they were in the land of their enemies, I will not reject them. Meanwhile,
or
you know,
destroy them.
yeah.
So you believe that this here is the Babylonian captivity.
I'm saying this can be compared to the Babylonian captivity.
And
where
the Deuteronomy is the
because the land, as we know right now, ain't desolate.
okay.
It's not desolate.
Stop.
Like it's being inhabited. They're building
Go, just
the land up right now. So obviously, this is talking about a time where, and that was that time where.
And and
wait a second.
right. So here it's talking about the place where the land was abandoned because the people wasn't doing the land rest or none of that. So you ain't gonna let it rest. I'm gonna have these people come and they're gonna take you away, and it's gonna rest while you. So while you're away, it's gonna be resting for when you come back.
Right.
But you know, when we look at what happened with the people of Israel, you know, with 70 AD, and comparing that with what we see in Deuteronomy chapter 28, where it says over and over again, talking about the literal utter destruction of the people, you know, it's a big difference. And, you know, we can just look at historically, you know where the people are. The people's unrecognizable. Right? So when we look at things like in Ezekiel where it talks about the valley of the dry bones, in Ezekiel where it talks about the valley of the dry bones, you know, Ezekiel's told to speak to the bones, which we end up seeing that as the people. But to him, it just looks like a valley of dry bones, unrecognizable. Right? So that's what we're looking at in terms of Israel's in a state of being unrecognizable until that spirit is poured out, until that word goes forth and activates life.
So I guess where I'm at is like now I always look at it as it's just the same thing.
Right. Well, yeah.
It's just the same.
I'm saying that
restated.
one's
But
significantly worse than the other.
One is a step up from the other.
I'm
so this is
that
the lighter.
This is the lighter of the two.
And then the Deuteronomy is the heavier.
Yeah, that's the hammer. This is the belt. The other one is the hammer.
Because even though he's allowing them to go into captivity and allowing the land to have this rest from them, he's not totally cut them off.
Right, and then he's saying it right there. Even though they're in the land of their enemies, I'm still not going to reject you. Nor will I abhor them as to destroy them. But then later we see, you know, he done divorces people. Even though we see that he wants to have his people back.
That's going to be a remnant.
Yeah. Okay, so that being said, we won't go too far off into a whole bunch of things, right? Okay, so is there any more thoughts or comments about any of these things? Okay, that being the case, we will go ahead and stop for now.